Hello everyone, welcome back. I have to say that things in the United States are looking so much more positive than a year ago. We have a lot to be happy about. So far during the first year and a half of the Trump presidency, we've gotten a repeal of the individual mandate of Obamacare, a huge tax break, stronger border security, as well as decreased regulation. For the first time in nearly 70 years, we actually have the possibility of peace on the Korean Peninsula. We have several key judicial appointments either gone or going to the right side of the aisle, and Hillary, Maxine Waters, and even the false prophet Obama have been making fools of themselves consistently on the national stage. The entire left has become a swirling vortex of sour grapes. Look at Kanye. He says something slightly positive about a right-leaning commentator, and the left piles on top of their former ally like a horde of malevolent lemmings. The economy is booming unlike anything we've seen in the last 10 years. Russia and China have both been taken aback by Trump's aggressive foreign policy and have a new respect for our nation. The leaders of Europe disagree with his policies, which, in my mind, points to just how effective and correct they actually are. Europe's been circling the drain for at least the last 10 years during the reign of she who will not be named, after all. Obama was complicit in their endeavor to change the demographics of the voter base of Western nations. Now, there's an awakening taking place. People are marching and protesting the social justice movements, and hope glimmers from across the pond in the form of Poland and Hungary. Why then do I have this uneasy feeling? Sort of malaise. I don't know why my smile's been turned upside down until I really thought about it, a little self-reflection. The issue that's making me feel uneasy is this. Despite the positive steps forward we're experiencing here in the U.S., we are one bad election cycle from taking 2 steps back. Am I being unrealistically pessimistic? Nope, and here's why. The far left, the regressive left that censors opposing voices and labels everyone that disagrees with them a Nazi, racist, misogynistic Islamophobe, have been at war with us. A culture war since the 1960s. Reasonable people have not even recognized that we were at war culturally until relatively recently. We've started out at a disadvantage when we opposed the regressive left. They have literally taken over our education system and a large portion of our judicial system. They've dominated local politics in most urban areas and have expanded the welfare state to the point where it hurts the average citizen in favor of the illegal alien. They've done this in small steps, creeping forward, never looking back. For them, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Appointing a leftist judge here, getting a radical leftist professor tenure there, slowly pushing moral boundaries to one side. Let's look at what they did to our public schools. First, it was making prayer in school unlawful because some of the students were uncomfortable. It was removing the Pledge of Allegiance because a few thought it was too nationalistic. Then they started removing school sports and instead giving out participation trophies because they didn't want anyone to feel excluded. Then they stopped teaching physical fitness altogether because a few felt that it promoted too much bullying because of inherent competition. After that, they complained, "Our kids are getting too fat." I wonder how that happened. Of course, this paved the way for general neutral restrooms and teaching children that you're born into original sin unless you have brownish skin. Next, look at what they've done to our judicial system. Slowly but surely, they've replaced impartiality with political appointees that will basically legislate from the bench. This alone has thrown the balance of our republic into disarray. How often have you been sitting there reading the news and you see a story where it makes your jaw drop as you read about some completely off-base decision that literally runs counter to the rules of our Constitution? When a judge makes a ruling based on political concerns over the rule of law, it undermines the confidence the everyman of our country has in the government. Do I even need to discuss what they've done to our immigration system? You see, they know that the black vote is starting to turn on them. They haven't helped the black family despite being in power in most local governments for half a century or more. Any black citizen with a brain is starting to see the light. Many individuals see that despite what their leftist overseers say, most conservatives accept them with open arms. When's the last time you heard a conservative voice shout the word "coon" at someone who dares disagree with them? Leftists know that eventually they'll lose a significant portion of the black vote because the left has no intention of improving things for the black community besides offering up lip service. This is why the term people of color has become a buzzword in the vernacular of leftists. I'll say this to the black community. You guys are next on the chopping block. You're being replaced. You may not realize it yet, but the left intends to replace your vote with the vote of the illegal alien. I suppose the point I'm trying to make is that the regressive left have been in a culture war in our country for decades. They can afford to lose an election cycle due to the manner in which they warped our societal norms with leftists placed in strategically appointed positions of power. They don't need to win elections. They don't need to be elected because most of their influence relies on judges and professors that can't be fired or replaced with a vote. They've triumphed in the war for our educational system. We have tolerated it because the stereotype of the eccentric liberal public school teacher has become an almost endearing comic cliche. Ask yourself how hard it is to fire a teacher or get rid of a professor with tenure. They've triumphed in our judicial system because it only takes a few rogue judges to have a profound effect on the law. These judges aren't elected and can legislate from the bench by declaring laws they disagree with unconstitutional. They've triumphed over our family values by making it acceptable, even preferable to have a single-parent home, effectively stigmatizing the father figure with battle cries of misogyny and patriarchy. Why do this? The close-knit bonds of the family is a threat to the collective that they want to establish. And this brings us to the most recent casualty in the culture war with the left, the Boy Scouts of America. For many years, the Boy Scouts have been promoting the traditional values of American culture, male American culture. For many, the Eagle Scout badge is a rite of passage into manhood. The few scandals that have dotted the history of the Scouts over the years pales in comparison to the positive effect it has had on the millions of boys that have learned responsibility, courage, perseverance, and a sense of individual accomplishment. The Boy Scouts are the antithesis of what the left represents, which is victimhood, collective identity, collective accomplishments. Cultural Marxism in a nutshell. By changing their name to the Scouts BSA, the organization has bent to the will of the vocal minority. Allowing girls into the organization seems like a harmless, perhaps even benevolent thing on the surface, but is it really? Any guy that I know, if they're being honest, will tell you the social dynamic changes when you introduce the opposite gender into a group. These kids who are supposed to be on a journey of self-discovery and learning suddenly find themselves embroiled in a hormone-rich teen drama. Boys behave completely differently if there's a girl around. Girls behave completely differently when boys are around. It's simply biology. And this is just the first step of the transformation. There will be more, as evidenced by the left's assault on other institutions. By changing the name and admitting females into the Boy Scouts, the organization lost about 430,000 members overnight when the Mormon Church decided to sever ties with them. 430,000 scouts out of a total of 2.5 million scouts. I doubt that the females enrolling will come close to compensating for the loss of membership in their ranks, not to mention the lost revenue. Doesn't it feel as if the left is looking at the institution and activities that provide happiness to traditionally minded citizens and deliberately changes them out of spite? Oh, those people seem happy. How can we change that? Look what they've done to the nerd culture. They attacked video games. They destroyed Star Wars. They've castrated comic books. They've smashed Magic the Gathering. I'm going to borrow a term from them and say that they've embarked on a systematic campaign to suck the joy and maleness out of our culture. As American citizens, we need to continue to curb stomp their efforts the moment they rear their ugly purple and green-haired heads up to shriek patriarchy, racist, Islamophobe, or misogynist. They've won another battle, folks, and the members of the Boy Scouts of America were the victims. Our children were the victims. We can't sit back and rely on our president, no matter how much he's accomplished, no matter how awesome he is, no matter how much of Obama's legacies he's erased. We as a people need to stand up and be vocal about our beliefs and our values. We can't be fearful of being called names by people that don't know us or even like us, and wouldn't even like us if they knew us. Our country, our culture, is under siege from without and from within. I know that there are proud independent Americans out there chomping at the bit to make a difference. It may not be cool to unironically wave the stars and stripes these days, but honestly, I've been pushed so far that I don't give a fuck. Thank you for watching me rant, people. I feel better now. Please push those buttons down below, the like and subscribe, and if you feel generous, donate to my Patreon. It will help me produce better content more frequently. Retweet this and give me some more exposure, people. Thank you. Have a great weekend.